welcome to another finally long-awaited in-person episode.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
Of Half Court Press. He's Wilson Moore. I'm John Walker, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk some ball. We're gonna eulogize a couple of seasons. Now that one's over,
I was gonna say one of which is still going.
Yeah,
for some
one's
reason.
halfway in the grave.
Yeah.
You know, it's zombified,
Yeah.
I would say. But before we dive into what has been a whirlwind of a couple of weeks between portal comings and goings, in the stayings in the NCAA tournaments and everything in between. Before we talk about that, Wilson, how the heck are you, man?
I'm doing pretty well. No, it's been kind of a whirlwind of the past couple of weeks, probably for both of us. You know, we were both on location the first weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Nothing beats it.
Nothing beats it. It's awesome. But yeah, just good. Enjoying watching these basketball games. You know, it's kind of fun. You know, there's for so much of our job, you know, we're working on like nights that are common college basketball nights.
For sure.
Yeah, we're not able to just kind of kick our feet up and watch and enjoy games like Arkansas, Texas Tech last night.
We're recording this on Friday afternoon.
Oh, yeah, almost like Friday evening.
Almost Friday evening. But we're recording this on Friday. The second set of Sweet 16 games is yet to get underway. The first set's completed, obviously, as you talked about right there with Arkansas, Texas Tech, which was, I think, the best game of the tournament so far.
I agree.
Not that there's been stiff competition in that department.
Yeah. Colorado State, Maryland was pretty great.
That was a good one, and we got a buzzer beater.
Yeah.
Did he travel? Did he not?
Could you imagine, if they called that, could you imagine the internet firestorm that?
I don't think he traveled.
I don't think he did either.
You get a step.
Yeah.
I don't think like you
get the gather, right? Like did he have the ball on that first step?
No.
You know? Yeah.
I don't think he traveled.
I don't think
and you're not going to I guess I can't tell Creighton's fan base that you can't end an NCAA tournament game on something ticky-tacky like that because
Imagine that happening.
Yeah, because that's what happened in the Elite Eight a few years ago. So I'm sorry for digging up old trauma if that's what just happened. You know what I'm not sorry for?
What is that?
I was trying to think of something snarky to say and couldn't. I'm not sorry for spending 4 days in Lexington, Kentucky, because that was pretty fun. We talked after the Big East tournament.
We did, yeah. We talked a few days before.
So I won't rehash all of that, but it was just whiplash almost to go from New York City to Lexington, Kentucky. You know, the New York of the bluegrass.
Yeah. The New York of Kentucky.
The New York of Kentucky. And I saw some pretty darn good basketball. Creighton, as everyone knows by now, beat Louisville in the Cardinals' own backyard in large part because of Jemiah Neal's career performance, really. Had a career-high 29 points, and the way he did it was really, really, really impressive. Louisville, as most teams have done, as Nebraska did all the way back in November, said, hey, we're going to take away Ryan Kalkbrenner and Stephen Ashworth as much as we possibly can. And, let's see if somebody else can beat us. And to Jemiah Neal's credit, he did that with really tough late shot clock mid-range jumpers again and again and again for 40 minutes, all while Creighton was hitting threes as well. And all of that was just kind of an avalanche that buried the Cards under too deep a pile of rubble to dig out of.
Yeah, I mean, I had Louisville winning that game. And if Creighton won that game, I certainly didn't expect it to just be a beatdown like that.
And it was.
Yeah.
I
don't think anyone was expecting that, right? I mean, I think the narrative coming in was like, these are two teams who are both probably better than an 8 seed, better than a 9 seed. This is going to be a great game to kick off the tournament, get things started, and I don't think any of us saw that coming. Creighton winning like that.
No, I don't think so. I thought Creighton would win. We talked about it a little bit before we came on air. I was like, why would you pick against Creighton, because they entered this tournament having won a game in 4 straight dances. Yeah. And so it's just super tough to prepare for that offense even with a week. And everything that Louisville was good at this year, Creighton defended. Yeah. Like, they would get into the paint and see 7'4" wingspan of Ryan Kalkbrenner and, a 6'2" Chucky Hepburn or however tall he is like, oh, boy. Louisville was really, really, really based on getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line as a result. Well, Creighton protects the rim and Creighton doesn't foul. So it was really kind of a bad matchup for Louisville. Excuse me. In that part, you expected. No one expected Creighton to hit 9 threes in the first half or whatever it was. They just shot the lights out of that gym to silence it. And you said you didn't get to watch that game.
No,
but I'm sure you saw the water bottle incident.
Yeah, someone threw a water bottle.
Yeah, from 15 rows up, splatted right in front of Creighton's bench. And here's the small strife I have with how that played out. It was obviously not a Creighton fan who threw the water bottle, which a video revealed that made the rounds later showed. But Creighton's bench cleaned it up. Like, Creighton's assistants and their staff were grabbing towels and cleaning up the water. Why?
It's a good question.
No,
that crossed my mind. Do you remember probably 10 years ago now when I think it was Jason Kidd's first coaching job, and he had his assistant bump into and spill the water. What if that was the strategy the whole way? What if it was someone being real strategic and trying to get someone an extra timeout?
It didn't work. It did not work. That is one thing I do know, because Creighton went on to win that game by I think 14. I mean, it was just a blowout. I think it was 89-75. It was
and that seems to kind of that doesn't even really accurately portray.
No, God no. And that was Creighton's one of Creighton's best offensive outputs of the season easily. Again, got 29 from Neal, got 20 from Stephen Ashworth. We're hitting threes. Got 14, I think, from Jackson McAndrew, somewhere in double digits. And then, Wilson, you knew it was going to be a tall, tall task to beat the top-seeded Tigers.
You did.
And Creighton hung with Auburn for 30 minutes. And then, much like last year's Sweet 16 loss to Tennessee, it was really all of 5 minutes that cost Creighton that game. They gave up a 20-4 run, and they couldn't hit shots, obviously, and Auburn kept hitting floaters over Kalkbrenner and hit threes, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. Because Auburn I was so impressed. I was sitting next to one of the Auburn beat reporters. Yeah. Not Adam Cole.
I was going to say,
Adam Cole. I did talk to Adam Cole. I was down there, but it was not him. I saw the light bulb go.
Yeah. It was one of my first bosses in college.
Yeah. So it was not Adam Cole. Yeah. Shout out Adam Cole. But I was sitting next to him in the first few defensive possessions of the game. I was like, oh God, Auburn switches everything. Yeah. And I watched a little bit of film on Auburn throughout that day, so you knew that. But to see how effectively they did it in person against Creighton's, free-flowing offense was really, really impressive. Because they just stopped all the movement somehow, some way.
It's not much you can do when you're athletic enough that you could just guard anyone. So much of modern offense, and Creighton runs a very modern offense.
No way. No.
is about, kind of the, both creating mismatches and just, getting guys lost in confusion, how, exploiting the weaknesses. But when you're just switching everything, those ball screens just don't work. When you can't, when you're athletic enough that teams can't exploit the mismatch after that.
When you're too athletic, when you're too athletic at all 5 positions, there are no mismatches.
Yeah.
And when you're that athletic and can switch, there is no confusion.
Yeah.
So that's obviously Auburn's been regarded as the top team in the country all season long. Like, they're the top seeded team in the NCAA tournament for a reason. And Creighton, Creighton hung for 30 minutes, and then Auburn pulled away. It's an 82-70 loss that ends Creighton's roller coaster of a season, really. I think most teams in the country would describe a season that way in one way or another. But for Creighton, it really was. Had the highs of the highs of beating Kansas in early December, and 48 hours later, you find out that your second leading scorer at the time is out for the season, Pop Isaacs, and then they go on a 9-game win streak to peel themselves off the bubble, and it's like, okay, they might be fine, and boom, all of a sudden, Creighton was in the middle of a Big East regular season championship hunt. That doesn't work out. Well, then they get to the Big East tournament title game and have a chance to exact revenge on St. John's. Well, that doesn't work out, and they get to the tournament and win a game they probably weren't supposed to on paper. The conversation was Louisville's underseeded, and it's 45 minutes away from Louisville's campus. And then, again, hung with top-seeded Auburn for 30 minutes before unraveling. So, really, it was a roller coaster of a season that all ended last Saturday in Lexington, and with it went the careers of Ryan Kalkbrenner, Stephen Ashworth, and Jemiah Neal. Sami Osmani as well.
Yeah. And that really kind of makes it like, maybe this is a cliche to say, but it's the end of an era for Creighton, and it's kind of it's a reset from here. Like, the success of next year's team and the team the year after that will not be related to the success of this year's teams. I mean, Jackson McAndrew appears to be a guy who can contribute. I think we saw even more of that and Ty Davis as well. But generally speaking, this was Kalk and Ashworth's team, and next year it will be someone else's team.
It'll be Owen Freeman's team. It'll be Jackson McAndrew's team. We'll see who. We'll talk about that here more in a minute. That did it for Creighton. I thought something was really interesting, and I've told a few people this already. Last year in Detroit, their season ended with the loss to Tennessee, and everyone was really distraught in the locker room. They thought that was the team that could get to a Final Four, and obviously they were not so close, but they were close. Anytime you're 2 wins away, you're close. I remember the lead of my game story that night was Trey Alexander bawling. He couldn't stop crying. There was nothing like that this season, post-Auburn. And I thought that was really interesting because Greg McDermott had talked about it, and Ryan Kalkbrenner talked about it, Stephen Ashworth a little bit too, that they had just appreciated, one, their time together this season, 2, having the week in Lexington, because again, there was a point in the season where it looked like they weren't going to make the tournament, point blank period. After the Georgetown loss in December, we were like, oh boy, this could be a long year. And they appreciated every second they had together throughout the back half of the season, and they appreciated their time in Lexington, knowing that there was a really good chance their season ended before they could get back to Omaha, because again, you're playing what's been regarded as the best team in the country.
Yeah, I mean, people say, there's belief in this locker room and all that, and I don't doubt that, but I think there's a part of you that deep down knows, when you're a 3 seed that can make a Final Four run, and when you're a 9 seed that the odds are stacked against you.
Yeah, and that's Greg McDermott said after that game, we knew we were going to have to be nearly perfect.
Yeah.
When you know that, again, it's not like there's a lack of belief, a lack of faith that you can go win because Creighton hung with Auburn. But it's going to take damn near everything you have.
Yeah.
And as we saw, everything Creighton had wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
So it'll be a tough one. They get to a 5th straight NCAA tournament, but cannot make a 4th what would have been a fourth Sweet 16 in 5 years, which would have been an insane run, really. But that's not the only tournament that's going on right now, Wilson, because I think everyone's waiting for the ball to be tipped on the college basketball crown. Nebraska's going to play in that. I think that starts next weekend.
Starts Monday.
Starts Monday.
Yeah.
Which is just
weird.
Fascinating that they said the week of the Final Four. Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's start this. The transfer portal's been open for a week.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's start this. Regardless of what I think about it or what you think about it or however objectively questionable the entire thing is, Nebraska's going to play in it.
They are. Nebraska's one of the better teams in this
Nebraska is
field,
one of the better teams in the field. Wilson, please tell us what the Huskers are in for next week in the Burger King of postseason tournaments. The crown, have it your way.
I think a big part of this is we don't really know what they're in for because this tournament has never been done before.
I know.
We don't know. I don't look. And I have made fun of the crown before, but maybe it'll be awesome. Maybe they'll get there and the crowds in Las Vegas will just be electric and everyone will be bought in. Are the odds of that likely? Probably not. But in theory, it could happen because it hasn't happened yet.
Sure, yeah.
But specifically in Nebraska's case, and I'm being earnest now, I'm for them, a big part of it was this is a team with 7 guys who are never going to play college basketball again.
Yeah.
And, this wasn't the season anyone hoped they would have. They wanted to go to the tournament. They wanted to be the first Nebraska team to win a game. But that didn't happen, and now it's just, why not for them? If you are Andrew Morgan or Braxton Mia or Jawan Gary or Bryce Williams, Raleigh Wooster, who won't play because of an injury, you have at minimum 1, at most 3 or 4 games left in your college basketball career. At that point, it's just kind of why not, right? This is a time in your life you never get back, and they were offered the chance of you can play basketball or you cannot play basketball, and just given the uncertainty of life after college, they said, yeah, let's play another game. So
for those guys, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it absolutely does. But just I've got the bracket pulled up, just conceptually, Nebraska wants to willingly play at max another 4 games while the portal's going on and while all of this, you know what I mean? It makes sense for those 7 guys who won't play together again, who don't know if they'll play again, period. But man, it's just so hard to get up for games like that.
Yeah.
Let alone 4, potentially 4 of them.
Yeah. And I think to your point of this going on while the portal is open, that puts you, if you are a coaching staff, especially a coaching staff like Nebraska, who is down a man with Adam Howard leaving, that puts you in a real tough position. Fred Hoiberg was talking about it on Wednesday, basically Fred Hoiberg's day is so Nebraska is a morning practice team. So they practice in the morning and then, get their work done. Mm-hmm. And then in the afternoon, then it's phone calls, Zoom calls, film. Okay, who would be a good fit? It is morning, and then afternoon is hitting the portal and assembling a roster for next year. It's not easy, and that's why, that's why I think it made sense for, the teams that declined the invite, which is, what's more, it's what's more valuable, is it those 4 games or is it figuring out what your roster is going to look like next year? Nebraska's trying to do both at the same time.
It's so tough because they're not the only ones. Obviously, there are 16 teams in here.
Yeah, they're all in the same boat. Yeah.
They're all trying to do it. Villanova, Georgetown.
Yeah, Villanova's trying to figure
DePaul.
out who its coach is going to be.
Well,
we might know in like an hour, but
we
might have known before the plane lifted off.
Yeah, no joke.
San Francisco,
like Wevin Killard or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Wevin Killard. Yeah, I heard that guy's gonna be the coach of Villanova.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, man, it's I hate to bash the event, I really do, but again, I'm just looking at this and thinking, with every additional detail I see, why?
Yeah.
Like, I just keep asking
the NIL component. That's part of it. Especially a lot of these teams in the Crown are not the teams you think of as having like deep pocketed boosters, funneling money in like that. These are teams who, that $300,000 can, that can mean something. That can be the difference between getting a guy you really want out of the portal.
Dude, this is a mess. So they play Monday, Wednesday, okay?
Yeah.
And then if you win Wednesday to go to the Final Four of the Crown, you don't play until Saturday, which is also the day of the Final Four, the actual Final Four. Then, Wilson, then if you win to go to the Crown Championship, you play Sunday. No, that's not Easter Sunday, but you play Sunday.
So the day between the Final Four.
So why couldn't they have just made it like Friday, Sunday, since the actual Final Four is Saturday, Monday?
Yeah.
Like, this is that's what I'm saying. Like, every additional thing I see, I'm like, dude, what are we doing?
It does often seem to be a little just kind of misguided from the beginning.
Yeah, misguided's a really good word.
Yeah, it's a diplomatic word.
You know what else is really misguided?
What's misguided?
This whole portal process, man.
Can I give you a hot take?
Please.
Because people will not agree with this, but I think we've established that this is this podcast is a place where we can express ourselves free from judgment.
Do you need to get something off your chest?
Yeah, because everyone is against me on this one.
Okay.
I think it is a good thing. I like that the portal opens while the NCAA tournament is still going on.
I'll let you justify.
To me, it is no different from the worst team in a professional league getting the first pick in the draft. If you had a season, that's forgettable, and we'll put aside the Crown for a second. And
sure.
If you had the season you did not want to have, and your season is done by the end of the first weekend of the tournament, then you get the first crack at the guys in the portal. I say that, and I think think of all the like fundamental changes we have gone through we have seen the world of college sports go through. Like the portal, NIL, all of those benefited the Dukes of the world,
right?
The SEC programs of the world, the Kansases, the North Carolinas. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have one thing that advantages the teams that do not historically do well. So that is my that's my take. I know it is not especially popular, but I think that's very fair seems overly simplistic, but it's
no, it makes sense. It's just something else to add to the parody.
Yeah,
of the game.
Yeah, and I just think like when people are talking about this, I'm just like really, you want to give another advantage to the teams that are already good to go along with all of them that they already have. It's